Hello, everyone. My name is Ned Dennis, and I'm the chairperson of the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame. For a number of years now, and I'll give you the exact date, March 2019, the International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame has had a formal initiative to identify and nominate, where appropriate, swimmers with physical disabilities and contributors who've helped. And it's been a great experience for us. We have a number of honorees who've come in as a basis of that program. One of our favorites would be Rosalind Hardiman, whose legs were damaged by the polio virus when she was a young girl. And to tell you a little bit about our journey, I think our journey was originally disabled swimmers. And then as we got into it a little bit more, somebody said to us, hang on a minute, guys, they're not disabled. They're swimmers, emphasis on swimmers, who happen to have a physical disability. And so we went through a whole education process with how this stuff worked. And we eventually also went from disabilities to physical disabilities, kind of as a phase one, because we realized we just weren't equipped to talk about all the possible disabilities that there might be, particularly things like intellectual disabilities. It just wasn't something we could get our arms around in the present time, may come later. So today, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce, we'll start with Cliff Golding, who's class of 2026 honor administrator. So Cliff, welcome.
Thank you, Ned. Glad to be here.
And we have Paul Parrish, who's been at the center of a program that I see year after year after year, run by Aspire. And Aspire put together relay teams for the English Channel. And I'll let Paul talk about that in a bit more. Paul, say hello to everybody.
Hi there, everyone.
Paul, tell us a little bit about your organization and the connection with the English Channel.
Well, we're a spinal injury charity, so we basically we're a national charity in the UK, and people who are paralysed, we basically provide practical help for them. So we try and take people who, a minute ago had fully functioning limbs, suddenly find that that's over. There's no cure for spinal cord injury, and we try and get them back from that injury to some form of independence. So we have lots of services that will help them do that, from using technology like we're using now, housing, all sorts of work around benefits, and anything that can help people get back into the workplace, keep going with their friends. And of course, where movement is possible, there could be all sorts of sports that we may be able to get them involved in. So anything we can do along those lines to give people as independent as life as possible, that's what we do. And you asked about swimming there, Ned, didn't you? So back in 2009, we had a guy with a spinal cord injury who came to us and said, I'd like to swim the channel. And we put together a little team of people, broke every rule in channel swimming. The guy had a wetsuit. Don't think anybody actually did a full hour because they didn't know what was going on. But we got this guy, James Wood. We got him to France, where he was delighted. He landed the swim. People ran up to him on the beach to try and give him a drink and everything like that. When they found he couldn't stand up, they then rang an ambulance. And he was like, no, he couldn't speak French. He's like, no. And but we got this guy to France, and we sat back after it and thought, that was actually quite something. I wonder if that would work as a fundraiser. And nobody was really doing that kind of thing. And since then, we've put, the following year, I think we had a couple of boats going across. And since then, it's just grown and grown and grown. And it's not just the channel, but it's open water swims all over now. We got some quite innovative swims, but the relay channel has been a huge thing for Aspire. Raised 2.5 million over the past few years. It's absolutely stunning. So yeah, and we love it. We just love everything to do with the channel, everything to do with open water. And we've carved this strange niche out for ourselves, which I love.
So I think Cliff will agree with me. We have some inspirational folks who, as you say, break every single rule and I'll pick my words carefully. They swim from England to France. We don't necessarily call it the English Channel. It doesn't get recorded. It's not ratified. It's not authorized. But guys like Cliff and I will compete for who gets to stand on the table while we applaud and cheer them. Because it's fabulous to see those kinds of things happen. Give us some idea of how much money you've raised over the years, approximate numbers from these charity events.
Yeah, so yeah, with the end of this year, we'll have raised 2.5 million from just the channel relays, which when I started, it was 10,000, something like that. It's just grown and grown. And then we added other swims to that over the years as well, and they've become really popular as well. And altogether, but yeah, we'll have raised 4 million this year from over the past few years, which for a charity like ours, we're not a big charity, but it is. And Ned, you were asking me, what's the percent, how much does it contribute to your charity? It's a huge chunk of our fundraising income from something that hardly any other charity really does, because I think it's got a lot of technical side to it. We're kind of enthusiasts, we're passionate about it, even, we just happened to be in the right place at the right time, I think, and got behind it. So yeah, it's raised a lot of money.
Give us some examples of the most unlikely teams that you've put together. 6 people from 12 different countries that can't speak the same language, that never met each other. Just give us some of your favorite examples.
Oh, we've had some great teams. We had one team which were all London, apart from one bloke in Italy. And this guy would come over for every training session, and he would always be there. And he had a disability himself, so it wasn't even easy for him to come over from Italy. But he would do that, and got across, absolutely fantastic. And then we've had some really interesting ones. Like about 3 years ago, we had a secret Rolling Stone. We had the wife of a Rolling Stone. Now she didn't tell anyone who she was, and we ask everyone to raise about £1,750. That's the going rate. And of course, they all go beyond that. We suddenly had this woman, and she was just raising more and more money. You're thinking, what on earth is happening? It turned out it was Ronnie Wood's wife, and she was, ex-model, and we all know the channel. It doesn't matter we ex-model or whatever. In the channel, we're all equal. And boy, did she suffer! But she was absolutely fantastic, hard as nails. And actually, at the end of it, Ronnie turned up to. The team finally found out about it, and then were amazed when Ronnie turned up at the end to say, well done, and was posting it on his Instagram. So we've had so many different people doing so many different things, and people who've come to us and we thought, I don't think you're up to this, but we've liked the way they are as people. That enthusiasm that you get with this sport. They want to do better, and we said to them, look, go away, train over the winter, come back to us and see if you can hit these numbers. We can get you on a boat. And we've had some people who've not only done that, but then have completed the relay and then gone on to do so many other different things. And we always think, if we hadn't given them that chance, I wonder what would have happened. And those are the kind of stories that we come across each year. There's always somebody somewhere who's got some story. And I think we probably all have a story, and some more obvious than others. But so many people have just been inspired us over the years.
Fantastic. Um, you say you kind of give them some general guidance for training. Is there more than that? Are you bringing them together for group training? Do you have a bunch of volunteer coaches? How are you providing mentors? How does it work?
So what we've done over the years, as we've had more and more people swim with us, and it's become a bit of a family. We've had people who want to then stay on and help. So we assign every relay team an ex-swimmer who's known as a boat leader, and they will then coordinate everything between the charity, the pilot, and the team to make sure that they can look after the team as personally as possible. And then we'll put on 3 training weekends where we get the teams to all come down to Dover on the beach and put them through their paces. So starting off in May with obviously some really cold swims, because some of the people that we'll have swimming haven't swum outside of a pool. Some won't have swum in the sea for years, and suddenly they're there in May, getting when we know what it can be like in May. And then by June, we're there to try and get them through their qualifiers. And we've also tried to create that team atmosphere. So the team will all swim together, trying to get through that 1.5 hour first part of the qualifier, then the hour out, and then all of them together in for the second hour. And it's great how, we have people who really do struggle, as everyone's different builds. The teams will really rally around somebody who's struggling. And then by the final weekend in July, if they haven't actually gone across, we have nothing like your style, Ned, but we have a bit of a beasting weekend when they are swimming non-stop and they're getting up at 6 a.m. for a big swim, then having an hour out, maybe getting a bit of breakfast and then back in 2 more times. So we and they say at the end of it that if they hadn't done that, it prepares us so well for that one day of their life when they can do this amazing thing.
So if you want to put a twist on that, what you need to get is a white builder's van with a lot of loose tools in it while they're having their food, and have somebody on the outside pushing it back and forth to simulate the discomfort of being on a boat.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Cliff, let's go to you. Cliff, you've spent an incredible number of days of your life down on the beach in Dover. Yes. For anybody listening who's not experienced Dover Beach, it's a international mixing pool of seriously experienced channel swimmers who have been over 5, 10, 20, 30 plus times. There are coaches, there are aspiring new swimmers, there are people who have done training for a double channel. Cliff, tell us your experience and how the relayers are mixing with the rest of the beach crew. What's it like for the folks down at Dover?
It's interesting, Ned. If I look back, my very first year of Dover was 1992. And until that point, the only time I'd been to Dover because it's the gateway to Europe, would be to get on a ferry. And that very first year, I think the amazing Frida Streeter, Honoree Frida Streeter, she had just taken over kind of coaching there. Ali Streeter's coach had emigrated to the New Zealand or Australia. So Frida had just started maybe the year before that. So on that very first day, there were about 9 of us. And there was Alison, who at that point had done 14 channel swims, and in 1992 did 7, including a 2-way, to take over as Queen of the Channel from the Canadian swimmer Cindy Nicholas. And there was another little girl called Lee who was 15. She'd swam the channel at 14. As you know, it's 16 now, but prior to that, it was, I think, 11. You could do it from 11 onwards. And then there were like several other swimmers and me, a skinny marathon runner who decided that he wanted to be a channel swimmer. Fast forward, if you go down there now, I mean, I think it peaked where a few years ago you'd go down on that first day and relay and solo aspirants, there could be 90 people on that very first bank holiday weekend in May. And it's kind of maybe plateaued a little bit, but you've still got, as you say, lots of channel aspirants and lots of people that have swum the channel and are either doing it again or they can't step away. They want to maybe give a little bit back. But it's funny, I was talking to another honoree, the famous Kevin Murphy, this morning, just to get a bit of background on how he feels it is now down there. And he said, because Frida Streeter, she kind of policed that beach for like 30 years until she retired some years ago. And then Emma France took it over, and now Emma's stepped back from sort of day to day. And there are several groups along that beach now who it's kind of fragmented a bit. So there'll be a group on our famous Swimmers Beach, and then there'd be like the Aspire relay teams are on the next kind of little bit of beach. And then Kevin with his group, and then there's another group, Tim Denyer from Red Top. He trains people down in Dover, but they're all after a common aim. And it doesn't matter which organization you're swimming with, whether you're swimming with the Channel Swimming Association or the Channel Swimming and Piloting Federation. you're after the same thing, whether it's a relay or a solo swimmer. And there's a camaraderie and an esprit de corps which builds very quickly. One of the most fascinating things that I've seen over all these years, and also when I've guided on swim camps, is how quickly people bond. And I think it's because of the joint adversity of the hostile conditions. And that means the cold water and the endurance training. And as you say, a lot of people, they're just off pool training, and sometimes it's a great leveler. I remember vividly, can't remember the name, but I remember a guy that was a really, really good swimmer, like, best in his club and that. And he was swimming and he came out scratching his head and he said, I can't believe it. He said, there's a woman over there and she's quicker than me. And it turned out it was Alison Streeter. And we were laughing. He said, but she's quicker. He just couldn't get his head around it. But a few weeks later, of course, he got it entirely. It doesn't matter what your gender is. You can have very, very quick female swimmers and very, very average by those standards, male or female swimmers. I remember meeting Trent Grimsey when the year after he broke the world record, I think he did 6 hours 55. And I had a photograph of him and Jackie Cobell. And Jackie Cobell did 28 hours and 44 minutes, right, to do the same swim. And I told him that I had this photograph that Jackie's husband had taken. And Trent said a very interesting thing. He said he was very modest about his achievements. And he said, yeah, he said, the fastest swim and the longest. And that subtle use of that word longest and not slowest, I thought was very significant because what he did was extraordinary. I think his average 100-meter time for that 6 hours 55 was about 1:12. And God knows what Jackie's was, but the point is, what he did was extraordinary. What she did was outstanding. He couldn't do what she did. She couldn't do what he did, and yet they were both revered for their achievements. And those two records have been overtaken now. We've got Andreas Voschberger, who's the fastest, and Sophie
Etheridge,
Betheridge, that's right, who is
the
has a
longest.
yeah, a physical disability, for choice of words, but and I think she's done 29 hours and a few minutes. So yeah, the change over the years has been incredible. And I remember Alison saying to me when I first met her in 91, and she said, Cliff, there's one thing you need to know about channel swimming. And I said, what's that? And I've heard it lots since in other contexts, but I'd never heard it before. She said it's 80% mental and 20% the rest. And I said, well, what's the rest? And she said it's in no order. It's luck on the day with the conditions, it's nutrition, it's your training, it's your preparation. But she said, trust me, the rest of it is up here. And with the rest, the advances in technology now with nutrition and the advances in AIS, for example, on boats that you never had before, and how carefully these swims are policed now. In the old days, they had rowing boats. They had someone releasing the pigeons back to Dover to tell people where they were. And now you track it live, you know. Yeah. Sorry, that was a
So,
long answer to a short question.
so I have some advice I give to people who want to fit in, who want to bond quickly. And I say, whatever you do, don't bring your own Vaseline. Borrow Vaseline from somebody next to you. And then I said, don't bother about, wiping your fingers or anything. And afterwards, bring some home baked cookies or
Yeah,
cakes or something.
yeah.
And I said, and offer them around. You've now completely bonded. You'll never
That's
bond
it.
tighter than anybody else. And
That's
they
it.
said, what's with the Vaseline? I said, it's not a sport for prima donnas.
No.
You're out there changing in your togs in the wind and
Yeah,
rain, and
yeah,
you're grabbing a gob of Vaseline off somebody you've never met.
yeah, yeah.
So it is easy to bond. Cliff, you've been the master of ceremony at the CSPF annual awards for a couple of decades now, and you recently were in attendance at the Aspire event.
Yes.
Talk to us about interfacing with these relay teams over the years. Some of your favorite moments, the smiles, sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was talking about this to Kevin this morning. I asked him a question. I said, how many, if you've got a six-person relay, on average, how many of those six do you think would go on to do solos? And he said, yeah, maybe one, two. Frida and I, back in the day, we used to see a relay team and we'd have a little competition between us and say, who do you think of this team is going to come back? And we'd say, well, that one for sure. That one's all over it, for sure. And we were often right. They'd come up to Frida afterwards and say, Frida, do you think I could do a solo? And she'd say, of course you can, of course you can. The thing with relay swimmers, we in my club that I used to belong to, it's called Black Lion in the Medway Towns in Kent. We did two teams with the Orams. So Mike and Lance Oram. So there was competition there for a start before we even left, and we tried to even the teams up as much as we could. And and on the second leg, we had a swimmer, a female swimmer, and I mean she was a good pool swimmer, but we didn't realize just how good she was in the sea. I mean, she was amazing. And we just pulled slightly ahead of Mike Oram. And Lance, who was our pilot, he shouted across, he said, Dad, could you just have a look at the back of my boat? And Mike said, yeah, why? He said, well, that's all you're going to see for the rest of this swim. Right? But we were like this all the way across, like that. And we finished in 10 hours 28, and they did 150 meters to our left in 10 hours 29. It was just the best of the best days. And yeah, we were club swimmers. But the excitement and the bonding that we did in the training, because we had a swimmer who was our one of our best swimmers. He just couldn't do the boat, and he was horizontal and non-combatant for the 5 hours until he did his swim. And he said, I can't do it. I can't do it. And we said, listen, it's you're going to be far better off in there than you are on this boat. And that was the only respite he had, the two swims he had from being just very ill. Um, so no, I think with relay swimmers, if you've got a six-person relay, every single one of them, unless they're an experienced channel swimmer or have done lots of other swims, they're going to be very nervous and apprehensive. And it's all about, I don't want to let the team down. What if I can't do that hour? Or what if I refuse to go in? You know, that we've all done our training and now it's going to be me. And what they don't realize is they think they're the only one that thinks that because they're scared to say it. But most of the others are apprehensive as well. And getting, especially if they swim at night. Back in the day, we didn't do any night training. First time I experienced night swimming was on a channel attempt, and it's a lot better now because you will do night training. You will let them swim by the side of the boat. You know, um, so yeah, I think with 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 relay teams, it's really odd. I've got the sad duty of doing a eulogy, a funeral of Irene Wakeham, who passed a couple of weeks ago, and she observed on 137 swims, including like 56 relays. And on one of those relays, they hadn't gone far, fortunately, but the boat lost all power, and it was a disaster. Swim abandoned, boat had to get towed back, and the mechanic was waiting. And he got on the boat, and after a bit of head scratching, he sourced the problem. And the problem was that Irene had put a handbag somewhere and tripped a master switch, and and that's all it was. Found the switch, turned it on, and off it went. I think the team were very understanding because they hadn't gone very far, you know. But you get all sorts of stories of swimmers, relay teams bringing enough kit for a three-way channel swim. You know, despite what you might say to them, you know, you don't need all that stuff, and don't be thinking they bring eggs and bacon. They're going to cook a cordon bleu meal, and you know half of them are non-combatant, and but they have a great time, and it's very empowering and very enlightening because I have a romantic theory that whether you're a solo or relay, if you get across, it's because the channel gods have relented for your slot. And I think people who don't normally do open water swimming have a huge amount of respect for not only the achievement but for the elements. And what I find astonishing sometimes is when you see a relay team who say, let's for example, they do 14 and a half hours, and then you get a solo swimmer on the same day who does 14 hours, right? And the relay team are going, God, I swam for 1 hour and I'll have 5 hours on the boat. And that guy or that girl, they've just been relentless, relentless, relentless. I find that fascinating.
Paul, question for you. The conventional wisdom now for the English Channel, if you're a soloer or a relay team wandering in from somewhere, you need to book 2, 3 years in advance. It's always good to have a mentor or somebody who knows boat pilots who can match you up with the best match for you. You guys are a bit tricky that I think you're booking in advance and you're reducing that amount of time. So if somebody wants to do a relay with you, how much notice they need to give you?
So they'll come to. So we book the boats years in advance now. So we're booking 27, 28. Definitely put down some deposits on 28. But they will get in touch with us for that. We've just done the assessment days this November for people who want to swim for 2026. So basically, the year before, if you think that's what you're up for, you get in touch with us. We'll have a full assessment day when we get a look at how you swim, make any suggestions we can, and give you a full day just saying this is what it's really about. This is the warts and all, and we don't try and sell it. We just say this is a reality. If you think it's for you, then let's have a look at your swim, and we can allocate you a boat for the following summer. So you don't have to hang around for years. But of course, the downside, I guess, if obviously I shouldn't say it's the downside, but is you'd raise money, and there are other charities as well who do the same thing, but it does get you on a boat, and it does mean in a way you kind of, if you can't get a whole team together yourself, because it's quite a big, unless you're really immersed in a swimming community, you might not have another 5 mates who want to do this insane thing. Whereas we can, make sure you're allocated a boat and, you get to know a team. And what I've always loved about it is that, the teams that we've put together, not all of them, but loads of them, they become like, they're still swimming together now. And they move on, they'll do Loch Ness next, and they'll do, we've got a bunch going across the Bristol Channel next year. They, all mates who met through the Aspire relays. And again, obviously I'm going to talk about Aspire, but that I think goes for any kind of event like ours. It's a charity, and you're thrown together. And it's a way of doing it. Gives you the opportunity to have that taste of the channel, especially if you are thinking about a solo. You don't have to commit another 5 of your friends to this thing, and and you do a bit good as well. It's not a bit of a win. I think we all win all round, really. So it's.
Well, listen, guys, thanks very much for your time. Paul, congratulations on a very successful program you've got going on. For those of you who haven't seen one of these videos before, hang on for another minute or so and we'll put up some contacts and subscription information. So again, thank you very much, guys.